Marvin Mickle argues in his book that the prophets are gone. It's hard to find a preacher who's preaching, by prophetic we mean a preacher who says, this is wrong in society. God's called us to challenge that, to make it right, to get in line with God's plan. When Martin King and that generation was preaching, you know what, racism is wrong. It's not according to God's word. I have to speak against it. I think that voice has been muted. I think that if we heard that voice again, if that voice is revived, that's what it would speak to. It would see the injustice in the culture and call it out. If we don't call it out, then are we the people of God? Because Jesus called it out. What do you mean I can't talk to this sister? What do you mean? No, we're going to talk. Bring these folks together. No, sit the men and women down. And we're going to feed all these people together. No, sit them down. That's what Jesus did. Right? So I think the role of prophetic preaching would be that we would speak against those issues of injustice, call wrong, and fight to have a more just society. And literally put our lives on the line. And I think that'd be central to our preaching, right? Central to our being, central to what it means to be the Church of Jesus Christ. I mean, that's what Jesus Christ died for. I mean, literally when you think about that whole generation of the civil rights movement, King and his comrades, his sisters and brothers in the struggle, both white and black, both Jew and Gentile, that's what they were fighting for. A more just society. So I think that the prophetic is out of our being. It's a preaching and a living towards a more just society. I think the issues that a prophet would need to speak to would be the issues of economic injustice. I mean, let's look at where people are getting paid. People not, look at the now assault on unions, which are protecting workers' rights. I think a prophet would have to speak to the issues of immigration. We're finding laws enacted in Arizona, in Georgia, as if someone, by definition being an immigrant, is someone to be suspect. I think a prophet would speak to, once again, this issue of the prison industrial complex, that we're putting people in jail and throwing the key away. I think a prophet would speak to the fact that people who can't eat, literally, they can't eat. I think a prophet would speak to the fact that people, should have a right to decent medical coverage. I mean, when you're sick and you can't get, well, if you look at some of our more impoverished communities, the people literally look sick. Right? They would tell people they would have a healthy diet. They would speak to the issue that when a kid in a school doesn't have a book, or when a kid in school doesn't have access to a computer, in 2011, we're right here like a city like Pasadena, you have kids who are in schools with no libraries and no access to a computer. So if a kid can't engage in the digital world, how will he or she compete 20 years down the road? They're out of the ballgame. If they don't get a fair education, they can't even get into college. If they get in and we don't have it funded, they can't pay for college. So we're setting up what William Wilson said, a permanent underclass. People will never get up. I think a prophet has to speak to that. We're developing a permanent underclass. First generation of kids who will do worse than their parents. Most kids do better than their parents, but our kids will do worse than us. They won't achieve what we've achieved. A prophet has to speak to that. He or she would develop the social analytical skills to engage the issues of the day, to analyze them, engage them with the text, speak prophetically, and lead his or her congregation into action to fight for a more just society. They couldn't sleep at night without doing those types of things.